For more on this, let's bring in national security analyst Dr. Rebecca Grant. Dr. Grant, it seems like, the Trump administration has been leaning on the Russians to get serious about peace talks. Vladimir Putin doesn't seem to be terribly interested. Why?
Why? If only we knew. And I can't believe Putin is saying he'll just go ahead and take the rest of Donetsk province. He couldn't do that in 10 years. He has failed to make much progress there on the ground. So his military options are few. And so I'd say don't give up hope. There's still a lot of diplomatic activity, and you know that Trump, Witkoff, Kushner, and others are very committed to finding that package of incentives and putting on the pressure that will get Putin to agree at some point.
I mean, Russia's attacks are completely illegal and beyond the pale when it comes to the rules of war. Launching missile attacks on civilian infrastructure, apartment buildings, the energy grid, and so on. And the world doesn't seem terribly concerned about it. I mean, people say they'd like to see it stopped, but there is a lot more that could be done against Vladimir Putin, isn't there?
That's right. And the mix of drones now contains more missiles than Russia has fired in the past. That tells me that Putin is a little bit worried and trying to put this maximum pressure on through these air attacks because he's not making that much progress on the ground. What we need, of course, is to have really strong security guarantees for Ukraine, Patriot missiles, the other systems, the wall of tanks that they're going to need when we finally do get a ceasefire to make sure there's no re-invasion, but to keep up that really strong military support as Ukraine rides this out. And hey, how about some more military pressure on legit Russian targets, maybe some of those air bases in Crimea?
So you'd like to see U.S. weaponry and others employed against some of those Russian assets?
I'd like to see Ukraine able to strike at some of the Russian bases that are launching these attacks in Crimea and in other locations. I think that's only fair at this point. And again, it's that combination of military and economic pressure that the administration and the Europeans now are trying to put on Putin.
The Europeans could be doing more, right? I mean, there are Russian assets available that could be essentially seized from Russia and given to the Ukrainians.
About $200 billion worth of Russian assets frozen in a bank in Belgium. And the EU's top official was there this week trying to talk about getting them unfrozen. But that's been going on for years. I would like to see that happen. We want to see Europe finally cut off its energy purchases. They're en route to do that. But most of all, to stick together and give Ukraine that path forward with instant EU access and, of course, continued military and diplomatic support. We need that from our European partners.
So you've got, the president's envoy, Steve Witkoff, there. You've got his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Both of them achieved the almost miraculous peace deal in the Middle East. But when the Kremlin says that no compromise has been reached, is that kind of a slap in the face at President Trump?
Well, it is, but look, Witkoff and Kushner did pull off that Gaza deal, so I am confident that with Trump leading and their efforts, hey, those guys should get some warm hats because they'll be back in Moscow negotiating again, I believe. I think they can do it, and the pace of activity, whether in Florida, in London coming up on Monday, and other places, tells me this is going to happen. Big problem, though, that everybody missed. China's foreign minister was in Moscow the same day as Witkoff and Kushner. China continues to be a terrible problem, egging Russia on and supporting them with defense electronics.
I mean, when it comes to what the Russians have done here, I liken it to Mexico. If Mexico were to launch an attack on the United States and try and take back parts of Texas and California that they say are theirs, would we just kind of say, after a time, okay, you can have it? That's what the world seems to be thinking about the Donbass.
Very dangerous, but this conflict does need to end for America as well. I'd like to see every Russian out of there, if at all possible. No question, an illegal invasion. But the long-term problem is containing Russia. We've got to stop them in Ukraine. They are doing gray zone, drone, and other types of operations all across Europe at this point. This will be a generational problem to contain Putin. But job one is getting that ceasefire so Ukraine can have a good, strong, sovereign path forward and deny Putin that victory that he wanted.
Dr. Rebecca Grant, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.